when the Sierra starts to kind of flourish as a body of literature, it was based on something that came before. They did have physical copies of manuscripts that have now been lost. So we shouldn't think that these were people who started from nothing 200 years later. You know, the story is the most interesting thing. There, at around the time of the fifth Umayyad Caliph, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, there was a dispute between two caliphs, if you like. One in Damascus, who believed that he was the legitimate leader of the Islamic polity, and down in Mecca and Medina, there was another man, Abdullah ibn Zubayr.
Yes.
And he declared himself the caliph. And both considered the other to be non-legitimate. And as you probably know, Abdul Malik sent an army down into the Hijaz and destroyed that caliphate of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. And the brother of Abdullah ibn Zubayr was this man, Urwah, and he feared for his life. So he wrote to Abdul Malik ibn Marwan and effectively said, look, don't judge me by my brother. You know, I will serve you with a degree of loyalty you can count on. And Abdul Malik said, listen, you have a reputation for knowing the life of the Prophet, and I don't know it very well. And so they started a correspondence. And Urwah wrote something like 9 letters to the Caliph and his son, Al-Walid, the first, who was the Caliph that followed after Abdul Malik. And we don't have the original copies, which would constitute definitely a primary source from Urwah, but later historians who did have those copies transcribed them and put them in their own books. People like Tabari. And so that forms a very early record. We can reconstruct those letters from later versions of them found in sources 200 or 250 years after he passed. So even though there's what you called a silent century or a silent 2 centuries, when the Sierra starts to kind of flourish as a body of literature, it was based on something that came before. They did have physical copies of manuscripts that have now been lost. So we shouldn't think that these were people who started from nothing 200 years later.